Have you ever looked at all the gear musicians use and wonder, how does it all work? My name's Dustin, and my family and I are setting out on a quest to inspire both adult and kid musicians to create new sounds together and learn all about what it takes to produce great music. We'd like to invite you along on the journey as we explore the gear professional studios, musicians, and hobbyists use to create their art. We'll take a close-up look at the gear and ask,
what's this button do?
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of What's This Button Do? I'm your host Dustin, and today we're going to be taking a departure from our usual episodes. See, the last couple weeks you may have noticed I haven't been online. Had something major happen in my life. A couple years back, I had been swimming with my daughter, and I developed a sudden onset tinnitus, pressure in my ear, and I've had a ringing in my ear ever since then. Now, I've spent years playing guitar and stuff where I've always tried to protect my ears as much as I could. But this was something just crazy. It wasn't like the tinnitus that usually happens after a concert or after a gig. It was just onset, sudden, and never went away. It's been 2 years ago. Well, about a week and a half ago, I had a major attack, and it was driving me insane. I just couldn't stand it anymore. The sound, the pain, it just, for those who have ever dealt with full-on tinnitus, it can just ruin your day. You get grumpy, you're agitated, you can't stop, you can't sleep because everything sounds so weird and so funny, and just this loud screeching sound. Well, I've been to several different audiologists, but a friend of mine had recommended somebody else, so I went in there and talked to her, and it's the first time I've had hope in a long time, and I wanted to share this with you. Not that necessarily my solution is going to be your solution, but I wanted to share what I went through, to help those of all you who are searching right now to know that there is some hope, but also to share my experience and to start a conversation down below about people who have had to deal with long-term tinnitus. So, and I know some people call it tinnitus, some people tinnitus. I don't know what the actual true way, so I'm going to say tinnitus. So feel free to beat me up down below. I know it's pronounced different ways, but basically what we did is we went in there, they did a sound study on me, and what they found is apparently the type of trauma I had was barotrauma, which is pressure suddenly happening in your ears, which also can happen from like loud beats and things being near speakers that are putting out heavy pressure. But what happens is there's little tiny hair follicles behind your eardrum. These you can't reach down and touch them. They're way back in your head. But those little hair follicles are actually what communicate sound to your brain. And you're born with a certain amount of them. They do not grow. Once they're there, they're there. And if they die, they're dead. They can't come back. Apparently what happened with me is the receptors that received sound above the 4,000 frequencies died off. And so I have lost all sound in my left ear from 4,000 on up. Now, luckily, that doesn't affect human speech. I can still talk to people, I can hear them, but they sound a little bit quieter out of this ear and they sound a little bit different. And then there's this constant ringing. Well, this audiologist was very good, and she said, what they found is that your brain, when certain frequencies go away, your brain is looking for those frequencies because it's hearing them out of one ear, but it's not hearing them out of the other. So it's trying to find those sounds, and it creates a sound in your head, and that is what tinnitus is coming from, is your brain trying to find that sound and trying to get you to hear that sound again. And so that explained it. It made a lot of sense to me that it's looking for that and just trying to fill that void. And so it's creating that sound. And she had said there are lots of different therapies, and I had tried several of these, binaural audio, different techniques, YouTube videos you can watch where you put headphones in and it makes different sounds through your head. But none of them, like they would lessen the pain every now and then, but none of them really had a good solution. But she said that she had worked with a couple of sound engineers and had an idea that she would like to try if I was down for it. And so she asked me, have you ever thought of a hearing aid? And of course, the guy in me who does not want to admit that I'm getting old was like, oh, no, not a hearing aid. Like, I don't need that. Like, I can still hear just fine. And she was like, well, no, hearing aids have gotten a lot more advanced where they can actually be tuned to just the frequencies that you're missing. And she said, if we try this and we put a hearing aid in and try to compensate for those frequencies, eventually your brain will start hearing those frequencies again and might stop trying to overcompensate, and that could lessen the tinnitus. So I was like, you know what, check with my insurance. My insurance said they would cover it. It would help me. So I'm like, well, let's give it a go. So we tried a couple different types of hearing aid out, but she was very insistent on a certain one. And after testing them out, I totally see why, and I wanted to share that with you. So what she suggested was a brand called Widex, and Widex makes a earpiece called the Smartric. And the Smartric is really fascinating because, and I know it's kind of hard to see this on here, but it's a much smaller form factor, kind of a little L-shaped. It doesn't have the little bulbous thing that you would usually see on the end of a hearing aid. And the microphones are placed right up top up here. Now, the interesting thing about this, especially for sound engineering, is when I put it in, it just slides in over your ear, and then you take this little piece, and it's got a little triangular shaped cone on it, and that cone helps trap higher frequencies inside your ear. So you push it in there, and essentially what it's doing is it starts to boost those frequencies, and she fine-tuned it so it's just focusing on those upper range frequencies. And apparently it's the Widex Smartric Moment 440. There's a specific model. The 440 actually has extra high frequency boosts that they can do to adjust it. So that model worked particularly well for my instance, but it might vary depending on yours. Like I said, this isn't a cure-all for everyone. But the amazing thing is putting it in, it starts to replace those frequencies. Now, initially, it bugged the crud out of me. I can't stand the feel of the little thing inside my ear. I'm starting to get used to that. It's still there, it's still bugging me a little bit, but I'm getting used to it. But the thing that blew my mind is in the short amount of time that I've had these and been able to use them, the pain has gone down, the throbbing, the headaches that I've been having. I am feeling much less of those. And I can hear so much better out of here. So much so that I'm noticing on mixes and masters that I've done in between now and when this started, um, I'm hearing like that trebly sounds that I've overcompensated for in my mixes on the left channel because this ear wasn't hearing them correctly. And I'm starting to hear that. Now that I'm hearing them for real, it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. Now, there are some drawbacks, I will tell you. In speaking with my audiologist, she recommended monitors when you're mixing, mastering. If you can do it, master with monitors and mix with monitors. You'll be way better off. It's better for your hearing overall than putting cans on. It's just better. But I'm in a home studio and my wife's office is right above me. You guys have seen the video of me making the studio. So I do a lot at night and I have to be kind of quiet. So I don't have that option to do the monitors at all times. So I use headphones a lot. But we talked about this and went through a few different things and came to a couple conclusions. One, you can do it. You just got to make sure you're keeping the sound level safe, which I've always been able to do that with my headphones. But what I found is there was a problem. See, my favorite headphones in the entire world are the MM500s from Odyssey. These are a planar based headphone, big old magnets on the sides, and they sound amazing. They're the closest things I've found to my PMC monitors. They are almost the identical sound, and I can mix and master in these better than anything else in the world. There's a problem. Big old honking magnets on these. When I put these on, they actually power off my hearing aid. They fry the circuitry and the hearing aid no longer responds. This was a bummer and a half, and apparently it's in how the hearing aids are made. This happens a lot with planar magnetic headphones. So when I'm using my hearing aid, I'm not going to be able to use my planars. That's a drawback. However, we found that Focal has put out these Lensys Professional. They have an open back and a closed back version. These are the closed back versions. I was so impressed by these because these also have the bigger ear cup, so they don't touch the hearing aid at all. They don't make scratchy sounds or anything, but the magnets in here do not interfere with the Widex. So my tip for you is if you are looking to mix and master, but you're thinking about getting a hearing aid and using it, take your headphones with you to the audiologist and test them out before you pick your model. That is the only drawback. We are going to do some testing and see if there's any way that I can still use the MM500s with the Widex. It's going to take some trial and error, but I will be sure to report it back in the comments of this video if I do find a solution. Any of you out there, this is an open forum. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear how you've dealt with tinnitus, and if you are using hearing aids to mix and master, please, please, please share your stories down below. I'd love to hear what's worked and what hasn't worked. So far, like I said, I'm very impressed with this. The only drawback is not being able to use my favorite headphones in the world. But I will say these Focals have been very nice and they do work pretty well. just not quite the same as my MM500. So I'm missing those pretty hardcore right now. So hopefully I'll have some solutions for you soon on that. But this has got me thinking about a lot of other things about how we can make quiet studio space and make it work and make it safer environment for musicians that come in, and especially my daughter who's been doing some drums. So we've been looking at some things like the RTOM black hole pads and the Zildjian practice cymbals. So I thought over the next couple of weeks, what we'll do is next week I'm going to cover those RTOMs and show you how they work. We're going to do some decibel tests to see how to reduce noise in your environment, but I'll let you hear what the actual things do and how much they reduce the sound. So next week we'll start all of that for the next couple of weeks, and then after we get back from Thanksgiving, we're gonna do 4 new pieces of equipment for the 4 weeks of December leading up to Christmas that I think are 4 of the best things that have launched during the 2024 season. So there's lots of more fun content coming up. But today I just wanted to tell you guys what was going on out there, why I'd been gone for a couple of weeks, but also to share the story because I do believe it's a story of hope. I have never felt better in my last 2 years. It's been amazing how much this is helping. I know it's got some drawbacks. I know there's some learning curves, but wow, the amount already that I'm feeling the tinnitus go down is phenomenal, and I just had to share that with everybody. I hope some of you all have similar experiences. Please share them down below. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be messing with the Widex app. It has some noise training features and some things to help relieve tinnitus as well. So I'll be messing with those, and I'll let you know in the comments as well if any of those work out really well, just to give you some ideas of how to use them. So, well, as always, I want to thank my friends over at Palen for having me out. I know this is a short episode today, but I just wanted to share what was happening out there. And for any of you dealing with tinnitus, please, please, please share your stories down below. And we'll all work together as a community. Let's share our good experiences and bad experiences and give each other some tips and tricks to try out. I think it's a really, really great place for an open forum. And this is something I think many, many musicians are dealing with. And it's a scary thing, especially when it first happens. But you don't have to be scared. Know that you can still do it. You're not going to have to give up music. You're not going to have to give up playing guitar. You're not going to have to give up mixing and mastering. There are solutions out there. It just takes a little work. So we're going to help you through it. Talk down below. This is going to be our support group. So please, please, please share your stories down below. Thank you so much for coming out this week. We really appreciate it. Take care. Look forward to seeing you next week.